Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Courage Talks. Today I have a special guest, Varun Gera. Varun has legendary experience in the healthcare industry, currently running a startup called HealthAssure. And most importantly, he's a very dear friend and an amazing gentleman. Welcome, Varun.
Thanks, Ethel. Pleasure to be here on your podcast.
Hey. So the discussion is all about courage. Obviously, source of inspiration is my book Against All Odds, which was my father's biography, where I have covered a lot of instances of courage in his life. And so that's the aspect. So, Varun, what does courage mean to you? What's your definition of courage?
So, Ethel, as we spoke some time back, courage, is understated. It's a very important thing for probably all of us, everyone. I think we have to have a lot of courage to move forward, break out, do things and explore yourself, experience yourself, experience the world. For me, that's essential for you to achieve success and find yourself.
Yeah. Any role models in courage?
Plenty. I think, examples of courage are littered all over the place. From the oldest, if you're looking at the most unconventional people you might think of, it's like the Mahavir, the Jains, the Buddhas. To be able to conquer yourself is the biggest courage. I would say, I'm a trekker. So for me, Reinhold Messner, he's the first guy who climbed all 14 8,000 meter mountain. I think for me, I followed his books and all that. That's courage. Then of course in business, you'll have people who achieve success. With that, they couldn't have done it without courage. So, Jeff Bezos. In India, you have Uday Kotak, fabulous journeys.
We know what you are today, Varun, and obviously quite an inspiring journey you had in your professional career. But take us down memory lane. Take us to your childhood days. How was growing up like? Any interesting episodes from your childhood that you remember which you'd like to talk about?
Okay, so I'm a Delhi boy. Born and brought up here most of my life. I went to DPS, middle class background, happy childhood. Whatever I remember, sporty young child, pretty much all rounder. Yeah, so post that I went to KMC Economics Honors, then I went to the US for MBA. But I do think of myself as just someone who loved outdoors and just trying to explore new things.
Interesting. While you cited some amazing names as far as idols of courage in the outside world, but for me, courage starts at home, right? So any interesting stories about your parents, your grandparents, any incident would you would like to cite which has stayed with you as far as courage is concerned?
So being a Delhiite, I come from typically a Punjabi background, and typically all Punjabis come from Pakistan. And they've been through partition, So I think at home, that's a very dear and a well-spoken subject about their journeys during partition and how they came to a country. I think that itself was a journey. And then come out here and make a new beginning and try and make it here. And, bring up the children and try and do the best they can. So I think, yes. So my father came from one part of Pakistan. My mother came from Quetta side. And I think their journeys have been fabulous. They came with pretty much nothing. And how they just did a fabulous job taking care of the families and bringing up children, Yeah, lots of courage stories there.
Yeah. No, very well said. Just a small aside, I've been running a contest called Against All Odds Essay Contest in my daughter's school, Pathway School, Gurgaon. And there the idea is simple. Kids are supposed to interview their parents or grandparents and get stories of courage from them. And you will not believe it, almost 40% of them are about partition. They always go up to their Nanu or Dadu, and he has these wonderful stories which are so inspiring, right? It's sad, but it's reality, right? And when you realize that what your grandparents and parents have gone through, it brings in a different facet or element about them, which you will probably not see in their day-to-day lives, because most of them would probably not want to remember those days, because obviously were filled with a lot of misery, a lot of sadness, a lot of deaths they had to see. But that's the other way to look at it as well. That's true.
And the one more way to look at it is to say that if the courage had not been forced on them, where would they be today? Where would we be today? Very different places. So sometimes you look for courage yourself and saying, I want a dream, and therefore I need to have more courage. And sometimes you're just pushed into that corner where you get that courage. So
No, very well said. And I think, that aligns with a mantra which I have, which is about embrace discomfort, right? And you as a trekker very well know it, right? When we shy away from discomfort, we are losing out on opportunities to exhibit courage. And when we welcome them, we are taking that chance that if we sail through that moment of test, we'll probably come out much stronger. And that's what you rightly said, right? If they had not had those experiences, their life would have been completely different. And we don't know whether that would have necessarily been a good experience.
Very true. Very true.
Coming to professional life, obviously you manage large teams, you're running a venture on your own, which of course is a big challenge as well. You would have seen courage at the workplace as well, right? So any
Hmm.
particular instance which strikes you as far as to either yours or you've seen any of your colleagues do something dramatic, take big decisions, take a lot of risk and all that?
Yeah, definitely. So as you said, I think getting out of the comfort zone, I think the biggest comfort zone that we have as corporate employees is the comfort of a monthly salary. So for me, I think just to jump out and say I'm going to start something of my own and follow a dream and kind of being courageous or being stupid, the way you might want to call it, I think that was definitely a moment of courage. And sometimes you get the moment and you seize the moment. And I think if you can get the support that you need, and that happens. And so that's the one form which definitely I see, the moment which I saw, in the corporate life. And of course, the team of people to join you, and they had the choice to stay back in their companies, but for them to join you because of their belief
Yeah,
in you as a leader or the vision that you might have, that itself also is courage to say why would someone do that. So yes, I think so. I see that happen all the time. And being an entrepreneur, your courage doesn't the jumping out is not the only time. I think you have to have courage to just keep growing,
right,
because at every phase you need different levels of kind of breakouts to get to the next level.
right. No, very well said. And I think what faint memories I have is two things were strongly against you when you were starting up, right? One is you were significantly senior in a position at UWG, and plus your age, right? I mean, it was not the right age
Yeah.
when people start up, right? So you had a
Yeah.
very strong comfort zone to walk out of, right? So probably the hurdles would have been much bigger in that sense, right?
Very true.
Maybe a lot of
And there's a third
explanation.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a third one that I was a solo founder.
Yeah.
So
No, I think very rightly
mm,
said, because when it comes to startups, I have a strong filter of not supporting startups
yeah,
where it's just a sole founder. Nothing wrong against the
yeah,
individual and not anything
yeah,
against you, but the journey is so tough, right? You need a shoulder
yeah,
to cry
yeah.
on, if not for support, right? At times, yeah.
Very
So hats off,
true.
and of course, I'm sure there would have been a lot of strong infighting at home as well, right? When you took up that decision as well, right? So it was not just your decision, your family's.
Not too much. I think I got tremendous support from my wife.
Okay, that's good.
So she is extremely courageous. She's from Chandigarh.
Yeah.
And the kind of support I got just made me feel like, hey, what am I worried about? If she's saying go do it. So I think I was very lucky to have her by my side and give me all the support.
Yeah, yeah. And again, on the personal note, I've always known you for your trekking exploit. Any stories of courage which you can cite from your trek? Some instances which you went through, some situations where you had to take tough decisions and you sailed through. Would love to hear some of that.
Yeah, I think pretty much all the treks have their own nuances. In some cases, I guess you're just not up to it. I think the peak you're climbing is a little too hard, for you to keep continuing. And in some cases, you go through danger. But I think those are the things which actually make it so beautiful. But
Hmm.
I think I never had life-threatening situations, really.
Okay.
But no, I think it's always beautiful to, work so hard, try so hard, and finally get to see, sceneries and experience them like you'd never do ever in your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but otherwise, yeah, beautiful times.
Oh, wonderful. No, yeah, of course, every trek brings back a lot of memories which stay on far much longer than what the trek itself is about, right? And you
Very
always want
true.
to hold on to that. And of course, the rediscovery
Yes.
of those instances is what makes you go back for the next one as well. Very similar to the runs I do, right?
Yes, totally.
Yeah, yeah. Courage is also expressed in terms of taking risk and taking chances, right? While entrepreneurship itself is a big risk, but you want to cite any particular examples where you took a big, bold risk, you took a decision which ideally you would have been advised not to, and you pulled through, and maybe the journey through that decision could probably be another great instance of courage.
Well, the connection kind of weakened. I missed you. If you can repeat the question.
Yeah. So entrepreneurship, of course, is a big risk by itself, but courage can also be displayed in instances where you take a big risk or take one big bold decision, which is against the norm. People are advising you not to do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah,
Any particular
yeah,
instance you took such a decision and proved everyone wrong?
yeah. Yeah, I think for me, the biggest one has been jumping into becoming an entrepreneur. I feel that's the biggest out of the comfort zone that I took. And that's definitely against the norm. So if you're looking at the number of entrepreneurs to number of employees, the ratio you can see, I think also the kind of failures that you have. So biggest really risk I took, but I think it's also a beautiful risk because the journey is amazing. So as an entrepreneur, I think it's an unsaid rule that you discover yourself once you
Yeah.
become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's a journey or a risk which paid off. And
Mhm.
I took it 13 years back. And I would say everyone should get out of the comfort zone, whatever it is, have big goals so that they can take some risks.
Yeah, very, very well said. I think getting out of the comfort zone and trying out different things, right, without having that sense of surety of success, that's where you really experience the true meaning of life, I would say. Another aspect of courage is in terms of vulnerability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moments of holding back strong emotions
Yeah.
or giving into the situation and letting the emotions flow. And I know entrepreneurship is a roller coaster ride, so as to say,
Mm-hmm.
from emotion perspective. But any particular instance of vulnerability that you can recollect, any tough decisions you had to make, you had to let go people, you couldn't get people you wanted, you couldn't get the business that you wanted, any particular instance which you can remember?
Look, that happens pretty much all the time. But I would say that if you're looking at vulnerability, I think if you're trying to be courageous, you are incomplete without vulnerability. And there are many people who try and become too courageous and not vulnerable enough. And I think they find it more difficult going forward. Those people can crack,
Yeah.
but you need a vent. You need to step back to move forward. And that's
Right.
vulnerability. So
Yeah.
I think as an entrepreneur, these times are tough too. There's a time when, unlike the earlier times where you were, given funding to try and build and grow.
Yeah.
Now, it's about saying being profitable. So I think you have to kind of find answers of how do you become financially positive. And I think that requires, cost cutting and stuff like that. Tougher things, very tough things. And sometimes those answers are not, so they're in front of you, but you don't want to accept them.
Yeah.
But those are the ones which is about saying, hey, how do I have the courage and yet the vulnerability to say, this is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very well said. Courage is incomplete without instances of vulnerability, right? I mean, it would be a hollow courage in case it doesn't involve situations where you had to, display your emotions and let your emotions revolve around you rather than you trying to control them, which is futile in such situations. Anyway, that makes sense. No, it's
Very true.
fantastic stuff, Varun. I think every entrepreneur is embodiment of courage, if I would say, and so are you. And it's a very
Thank you.
interesting journey that you have had. A quick few rapid fire questions, if you may allow
Sure,
me to.
sure, sure.
Any particular book which strikes you when you talk about courage?
I'm normally a non-fiction reader. So for me,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. One of the books which I remember, which I loved a lot, was again by Reinhold Messner called Naked Mountain, which is the Nanga Parvat. And it's
Okay.
about his journey. Yeah, it's about his journey where he actually had a failure.
Okay.
So he climbed the mountain, but he got lost. Beautiful story. And he lost his brother.
Oh man.
And they say that after that loss, he actually became a great climber. So he had to go through that really tough loss. Yeah. Beautiful book.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
fantastic one. Any particular employee whom you would like to call out? Any particular instance of courage which you remember about that employee which you think is remarkable? Might not have necessarily to do with work, but someone whom okay, this guy's gone through really tough times and it's worth calling out.
I think for me, I would say when the COVID was happening, there were so many employees, middle class, low middle class, and people like us were scared to jump out of our house, and they were actually doing the jobs. They're doing the jobs in these hospitals, amazing journeys. They were men and women from all backgrounds. Hats off to them. I've had situations in HealthAssure where people are so driven by dreams that they are actually putting themselves behind. They're sick, but they're still going ahead and trying to meet the objective met. So yeah, so I think it's all over the place. I think not one, but I think almost every employee at HealthAssure, I see beautiful courage stories around me.
Right. Wonderful. No, I think, yeah, the moment you mentioned word COVID, streams of examples can go through your mind. And obviously, we are fortunate that we have come out alive from that.
Yeah,
But a lot
yeah,
of people have obviously gone through a lot of tough times as well. Finally,
very
what's
true.
the question you have for me?
So I think there's not a question. I think it's just when I think about Till, I think about someone who's always egging on for the next thing. So for me, I think you are an inspiring person, whether you are doing trail running in the Everest Base Camp or you are doing the marathons or doing the Ironmans, you're writing a book or doing PhD, you're always on the next frontier. So yeah, just stay with it and keep inspiring us.
Thanks a lot, buddy. I mean, it's all about trying to discover different facets of courage. If if I may
Yeah.
stick to the topic, where my courage will falter is where I'll probably have to stop.
So I was reading something which said that if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think faltering on them is a natural thing. Just keep dreaming.
Great. Thanks a lot, Varun. It's been extremely wonderful going through the journey with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ethan.